Right, guys, this is 4-7. That's a truly, truly wonderful task. It's an influence task, so it means that it's a question 3 task, and we're always after 2 ways that something influences them. And it's a wonderful thing also to make some keyword cards for, or some flashcards to get these right here. But the first thing you have to work is out which mark you're talking about, and you can work that out yourself. But the next thing is, how does it influence something today? I'm going to tell you about here, and then you can work out whether you think I got it in the right order or not. But the first one I want to talk about is anatta. So anatta is this idea about understanding that there is no permanent self and how it influences you. I'm going to give you quite a lot of influences here. So maybe write them all down, maybe select some, but they're all kind of relevant. So understanding self, anatta first influences Buddhists to understand that there is no self, no permanent self. Then they understand that everything, because there's no permanent self, that means that everything is impermanent, and this leads to enlightenment. So this is the first step to lead enlightenment. If you understand that there is nothing impermanent, that everything is impermanent, that is the first step to reaching enlightenment. That's a very big influence. And this means you can then further influence Buddhists to break the cycle of samsara. And anatta is also fundamental to understanding the Buddhist teachings. So if you understand that, you can understand the rest of the Buddhist teachings. And understanding anatta will influence Buddhists to avoid the illusion of a self. And you will understand instead that what passes on after you die is energy. That can be positive or negative, and then that can lead you to think about, okay, how am I going to get rid of energy? You can snuff out by stopping all your attachments. So quite a lot of influences just on the idea of anatta. The next one I want to talk about is dukkha. So how can dukkha influence Buddhism? So understanding dukkha, suffering, how can it influence Buddhist? And it can. I'm not going to talk about the one that already says that in the example, but the other ones are. It can influence to accept suffering, and the next one is that understand that that suffering comes from craving. And the third thing is that it can influence you to understand that nothing lasts forever, and you can once again use the idea of Kisa Kutami, because she suffered because she didn't want to understand that. The third thing I want to talk about is anicca, which is impermanence, and that can influence Buddhists so they can accept change. And that, once again, if you understand that change is natural, that is the first point of understanding, of reaching enlightenment. So imagine that, understanding impermanence and understanding anicca can influence a Buddhist to get enlightened. It can also influence to overcome attachments. And once again, you can use the Kisa Gautami for that. And it can influence, this is the best one, because you haven't done this one before. So when you have a shrine and you want to do a little bit worshipping or meditating, this shrine here, then what Buddhists will put on the shrine is flowers to remind themselves that everything is impermanent. These flowers will wither, and that reminds them of impermanence, and that will then be the first step to enlightenment. Cheers, thanks, bye.